Hey, a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on in to lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. And Claibs, we are not in Atlanta right now.
No, we're not. Unfortunately, we're not. And I know anytime you lose your last game of the year, it always leaves a salty taste in your mouth. And I think the way this thing ended was really something that was bitter because it wasn't about being robbed or cheated or anything. You just didn't perform.
Right.
And so that's happened like the last three times the Cardinals have been in postseason. They haven't been able to score. And it came back to bite them again. And so, we can get into it today about just the little things that came about. But this was one where you tip your cap to Philadelphia. And then you look around the room and you kind of ask yourself the question, how do we keep arriving at this point? And there's a lot of different answers that may come with it. But when it's all said and done, you got to be better.
Yeah, we are. Before we get into all that, just want to let I guess if you can't tell, we are at Mungenast Alton Toyota here in Alton, Illinois. And this is my second time out here in the past 3 days, Mike, because I came out here Saturday to get a car. Yeah, just in case I had to go drive down to Atlanta today. And had to bring that car back today because I got no more use for it.
So you don't, but somebody else will because they have a good selection considering we're still in an era where supply chain issues and things of that nature have really slowed down the growth of new car sales. But certainly there are not only a few new cars left, they still have a ton of used cars that are available. So I would suggest either you can go online, like a lot of people do, or for me, I like to kind of come out and truly kick the tire. Come on out and take a look at some of the great deals that they still offer here at Mungenast Toyota over in Alton. It's easy to get to, whether you're on either side of the river. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the selection they still have.
Yeah, he put me in a Sienna van to drive.
I think I drove one of those down to Florida last year.
No, you had the 4Runner, or the Highlander, one of the SUVs.
Yeah, right.
This was a van, but I mean, it's sitting right out. I mean, it's the black one sitting right out there. It looks, I mean, it has all the body and everything. It looks like an SUV. It doesn't look like the van that you and I were. It doesn't look like that. And plenty of room. The captain chairs in the back, plenty of space all throughout the entire van, and not to mention just the miles per gallon that you're getting out because all these are the hybrids that they have out here at Toyota.
Very nice vehicles to have.
Yeah, so we are out here for the next 45 minutes, hour or so, talking everything Cardinal related and beyond. So let's get to that this weekend. Friday and Saturday, losing both games, two very different fashions, but the theme of both of those was that they just didn't score runs. And Juan Yepez's home run was the only time the Cardinals swung the bat and runs were scored.
Barely a home run, too.
Yeah.
I mean, had it needed to go another 6 feet, it would have been foul. But you're right. They just didn't score, and that's been a pattern there. I think you have to go back to, we talked about this in September, how many teams you played that weren't very good. And even you can include August. And I think when you fatten up on bad pitching, when you do run across good pitching, you just don't have a plan B as quickly as you'd like to have one. With that said, you knew what you were getting with these two guys. I mean, they were very good, and you just had no answer. I mean, there was some feeble at-bats that took place. And it just kind of indicates maybe the philosophy might need to be re-examined on the approach. There's always been a lot of discussion about what hitting coaches do. Do players listen to them? Do they not? What's the philosophy? Are we trying to have an uppercut swing? Are we trying to stay level? I mean, there's so many things that go into it. But we know that it's not working. And, there's just too many innings with zeros on them that would prove the point. So they're going to go through meetings and talk about a lot of different things. But they have to be better suited. I mean, they're a great regular season team. They got to be better suited for postseason. And the Cardinals aren't the only ones. The Mets were having a problem. We saw a few teams that had some problems as far as scoring runs. And the reason being, the pitching's better. Pitching's better. But with that said, the way pitchers are used today, a lot of these guys are in uncharted territory because nobody goes 9 innings anymore. So it's a different game, and I think we're still trying to get ourselves acclimated to what actually works.
And the way they go about building a team, and maybe this is something we could discuss more when we kind of do an outlook of what 2023 might look like. That's kind of changed now, because last year, if they would have won the NL Central, you're automatically in a best of 5 NLDS.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore. Now you have to be one of the top 2 teams in the National League. And going into this season, if your goal was to win the division and get into the NLDS, that, now that becomes okay. Now you have to be the second best team. You weren't going to be better than the Dodgers. No team was going to be better than the Dodgers. What did you have to do to be better than the Braves or the Mets in that? And you're talking 5-6 more wins that you have to, be better than as the year goes on.
And that's going to have a different look also next year because of the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have a chance to beat up Cincinnati and Chicago and Milwaukee and Pittsburgh as much. Just like the Yankees won't be able to. Well, Baltimore almost made the playoffs. So, you look around certain divisions that have teams that you can just go in and get 12, 13 wins out of when you play them. That's all going to change. So you're going to see everybody. And I don't know if we'll have a 100-win team next year. I think by the way the schedule shakes out. Because I think there are more teams who improved than I thought regressed. I mean, obviously Kansas City, some teams like that regressed. But when you look at Baltimore, you look at Tampa, you look at that division, and you look at Cleveland, and Chicago was in it for a while. Minnesota was in it for a while. But I think every division is going to have at least one bad team. You look at the Cardinals division, there was more than one bad team. So I think next year there are going to be some other teams that are going to challenge. Yeah. And it should be tough.
You still will get a handful of games against the Pirates and the Reds, both of whom, I mean, the Reds have already said next year's rebuilding. They're going to be bad again next year. And that's, I mean, to hear that in September is not, that's not a well-run organization when you go, hey, yeah, you know what? We were bad this year. Next year's not going to be much better, though.
Well, they have a real image problem. If you recall, their owner at the beginning of the year kind of basically took a shot at the fans as far as what else you want us to do. I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
And fans said, well, we'll find something else to do. So they elected not to come out and support the team. Their revenue is down. But see, here's the thing that I think bugs. I know it's one of the issues with the Players Association. Yeah, these teams have money. They just don't want to spend it.
Right.
They're getting a ton of TV money.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these teams who are bad have a legitimately good local TV contract. So they just don't spend it. And they're not reinvested in scouting or personnel. They just put it in their pocket.
Yeah. Now, I am not I have never had $1 million idea. I'm not anywhere near being a billionaire. But when you just kind of look at the way sports revenue goes, it does seem like having a full stadium would be beneficial to your bottom line.
Yes and no. Teams now make money more off concessions, because that's why you have the low end ticket prices. You're going to have your $5, $10 night, and then you're going to have, I use St. Louis as an example, the green seat section. Well, how many seats are those? I mean, they're okay. So there's a reasonable balance, but the issue is when you look at it, you got to get people in the ballpark and get the concessions. And I think that's why you've seen such a variety of concession items to be purchased. So there's a lot of different revenue streams, but I think it's kind of changed a little bit. But to your point, what good are concessions if you don't have anybody in the ballpark? Right. And Cincinnati is one of those ones where, it won't be long now before they start tarping the upper deck where people won't show up. And that's unfortunate because that's a good baseball town, as is Pittsburgh. Same way, and I don't know how they're going to get better.
Had speaking of concessions, I had the Korean barbecue tater tots at the game on Saturday. Those were up at the Proficient Perch.
I heard about them.
Those were they were really, really good. So good that Brooke Grimsley took one, had tried it, and then she went out and got the same thing.
I'm glad she didn't eat all yours.
Yeah. No. I pointed. She took a bite. She goes, "That's good." I go, "There they are, right over there." Yep.
Exactly. Make sure you bring an extra one back. But when you go to as many games as I've gone to this year, you kind of get away from that concession food. It's not good for them.
No.
Eat it on a regular basis.
No.
But still in all, I appreciate the diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And this all started with San Francisco. Their ballpark was the first ones to serve legitimate wine and the garlic cheese fries, and they have multiple other options that you normally wouldn't see at a ballpark. They've done a really nice job. And then you have places like, I love Dodger Stadium, but their concessions, they don't have much of a variety.
They don't, but it's real easy to get the stuff and get out.
True.
That's the thing I enjoyed about Dodger Stadium is that it's all, and I think more teams are going to that too, where they have the stuff right there that you can grab and you go you go to another place, you scan out and you're out of there for that. That's the two, whether it's either has to be a variety for you to get something that you're not used to getting, or be able to just grab it and get back to and not have to miss, an entire half inning just because you went to the concessions.
That's a great point you make. It's funny because in spring training at the Washington Nationals / Houston Astros ballpark, it's open air where everything faces the field.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's no concession issue. You can actually see what's going on. And that's something you're right, because you don't want to spend a half inning in line. No. And I know we've had that problem in St. Louis, and it really comes down to staffing more than anything else. And you touch on some variety and being able to move some stuff at a reasonable pace.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get back to talking about actually on the field stuff with the Cardinals. Last games of the careers for Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols. Adam Wainwright still was non-committal. He said he knows the answer, but hasn't said it yet. If you were guessing, what do you think Adam Wainwright's future looks like?
I would think he's coming back. And my question is, okay, you're coming back to his team that has Montgomery, Matz, Michaelis, Flaherty. You might even want to bring Quintana back. I don't know. And you got some other young guys that are going to compete for a spot. So I'm trying to figure out, I know you want to get to 200, but I'm trying to figure out how we schedule you in the rotation.
Yeah. I mean, start the year 6-man, space guys out, and then, I mean, those things, they always seem to work their way out somehow.
But, you're right. And just like we're talking about spring training and next year, the end of spring training, in every spring training, man, we got a guy that's not going to make this team. It's going to be pretty good. So you're looking for another guy to pitch. So I think you're right. It could work out. I'm off tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm here the rest of the year. But man, that's you hope it works out, but you don't want to sacrifice the betterment of the team for somebody just trying to get to 200.
What do you think of the chances of them bringing back Quintana? He was your game one starter. He was so good for you after you traded for him. How high of a priority is that going into the offseason?
It's not that high. I mean, I like to have him back. Wonderful person. Really enjoy being around him. I think your priorities are you need a catcher.
Yeah.
You probably need another outfielder. Maybe that's Jordan Walker. You got to get somebody in the outfield who can swing the bat a little bit. They're going to give Gorman a chance at second base again. You're going to need another shortstop, regardless whether he starts or comes off the bench. You need another shortstop. And you got to find out about a couple of other people. What is Zach Thompson? Is he a reliever? Is he a starter? Are you comfortable with your closing situation? You've already committed 2 more years to Giovanni Gallegos. So there are a lot of questions to be answered. And I think you look at your coaching staff. Are you good with your coaching staff? I mean, you look at the offense and you say, well, wait a minute. Now, having said that, Turner Ward is directly responsible for Paul Goldschmidt winning the MVP. So there's a lot of balls still in the air on them deciding their future. And you have to take a long look at your minor league. But I think your priority is catching. You have to find a catcher.
And more reports coming out linking Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals.
I think Wilson Contreras is a good player. I think Sean Murphy probably solves your issue more than Wilson Contreras. Because, see, we're looking at, hey, well, he can come in here and hit 25. Hey, I need him to catch.
Yeah.
I need him to frame pitches. I need him to call games. And if you notice, he didn't do a lot of that with the Cubs this year.
He DH'd a lot. Yeah,
exactly.
Played some first base. Yeah.
I'm not sure if he still has that ability to catch 135 games. I don't know. I don't want to try and find out. I want to get a guy who does it on a regular basis. So I'm enamored. I'm not enamored, but I'm intrigued by Sean Murphy and what he might be able to offer. Now you're going to have to make a trade. But I think Cardinals have some assets that maybe Oakland would be. Hey, anybody they don't have to go to arbitration with, or anybody they don't have to give free agency money, I think they'd be interested in.
So you mentioned you said one that you want a guy that's going to catch 135 games. Andrew Kisner caught a whole lot of games for the Cardinals. I didn't see the final numbers on it. Did he get to 100? Did he catch 100 games?
I would say he did.
I was going to say so. You have a guy that has caught every pitcher on this staff already from this year and in spring training. How much of a chance are you willing to give Andrew? Are you willing to give him a 1 year?
This year.
Okay, so that's
he's ARB eligible this year, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be an interesting arbitration case. What could he ask for?
Right.
And whatever he asked for, I'm going to present these numbers. How ineffective he was offensively. His framing numbers are not very good. His pop time is so-so. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this that I think we have to take a long, hard look at and say, is he an answer? Is he stopgap? I don't know. I just think right now it's something that they need to get some legitimate insurance because Herrera didn't show enough. Can't turn keys over to him. Pages, guy in the minors, is moving up the ladder really well, but I'm talking about 23, not 26.
Yeah,
25.
And then you already mentioned him earlier too about Jordan Walker in the mix for next year. They have accelerated him through the minor league system at a pace that we haven't seen in quite some time. And then not only that, transferring him from third base to the outfield. I know he was starting in center field this weekend in the Arizona Fall League where he hit a home run in one of his first games out there. I mean, how much pressure are you putting on a young kid like that to come up here and immediately perform in this Cardinal lineup, batting fifth, sixth in that order if he's up here the first week of the season?
Well, I don't know where he's going to hit, but we've seen this more and more. And we can use Michael Harris II from Atlanta, who never saw a day in AAA. He's going to end up being Rookie of the Year. And from everything we've been told, Jordan Walker is a better prospect than Harris II is. So I'm not afraid to take that chance.
Yeah.
I think it's all a win-win as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's been able to adjust at every level so far. And not just by a little bit. I mean, it's markedly better than everybody else he's with.
Yeah.
So I'd roll it back. If he comes in and swings the bat well in the second week, and remember, because of WBC, spring training is going to be a little longer. So he's going to get some more at-bats because there are going to be some guys playing in WBC. And he has a really golden opportunity to get some quality at-bats and really impress the higher-ups.
We got way too much time to talk about it now with another early exit. So it's going to be a long winter talking about some of the possibilities for the Cardinals. Hey, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's look at what the ALDS and the NLDS look like right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new cars arriving daily, like the all-new 2023 Acura Integra. We also have a great selection of over 200 pre-owned and factory precision courtesy vehicles with finance rates as low as 1.9% for 36 months with approved credit. And we've added Saturday service hours to our newly renovated service facility. Don't forget, we'll buy your vehicle here at our dealership or from the convenience of your home. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. Hey, we are driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Alton Toyota, and also powered by our friends over at Ameren. And Claibs, we have NLDS, ALDS. It's all set now. First of all, okay, 1 weekend into the new wild card, the way that worked. What were your thoughts on how that went?
I think it gives you a chance compared to the one game 163. You can utilize more players over 2 days. Well, some teams it was 2 days, everybody else it was 3. But I think it gives your team a better opportunity to compete. The games have been very evenly matched. The ones who got swept, like the Cardinals, it wasn't like they were overwhelmed. They more underwhelmed than they were overwhelmed. So I like the setup. I think it's good.
I mean, it was more baseball that you
Yeah.
get too. I mean, you actually have to set up a rotation. It's not the one and done game where it's all hands on deck and you're just going to go from starter to starter. That you actually had to.
It ruins you for your next round.
Yeah, you had to plan ahead and kind of think, okay, what are we going to do here? If we lose game one, you saw the Cardinals going out in game two. It was all hands on deck, and you were looking at who was available there. And if they would have won, okay, what do we have to piece together for game three?
Yeah.
And the only series that went 3 games, those teams. I mean, the Padres, their rotation's so deep. They are really they underachieved this year in the regular season, I think, with what their record was. And I think that rotation is so deep that's going to help them to where, the Mets had 2 guys at the top of the rotation that nobody wanted to face. And then it was after that.
No, they had 2 other guys when they were healthy, Bassett and Walker, that would have found themselves in anybody's rotation. But, health slowed them down. Man, you know what? I don't know what it's like to have a $282 million payroll and get sent home that soon. But going back to the format works. Games are balanced. I think what we're seeing, though, in postseason is how trends start to unfold, and we're going to see this more in the regular season. I think it goes back to 2016 when Andrew Miller was this guy with the rubber arm, and he's pitching every night. And, that's something you got to think about. And then the next year, everybody's trying to find a guy like Andrew Miller. We even found Andrew Miller, but I felt he was never the same guy after the 2016 World Series and postseason.
I mean, the pitching wasn't the problem this offseason or this postseason for the Cardinals. The pitching was outstanding. I mean, when you look at 17 of the 18 innings that they threw out there, I mean, everything seemed to be working. And Jordan Montgomery came in there, and after he had a bad September, he kind of redeemed himself in that outing that he had on Saturday night and showed that, you know what, I am as good as what I was when I first came here. And I think that's only going to get better after a full offseason of work with the Cardinals too.
Yeah, and he's going to probably stay around here more to work, which would be interesting to see. And I think everybody knows that, hey, if he can just stay healthy, who knows what you have. How many years have we been saying that now? So you got to figure something out there as well.
Yeah. So then, so you have the Padres. They are going to LA for that series that starts on Tuesday. All the series start tomorrow. Philadelphia and Atlanta. So you get both teams. You get an NL East matchup. You get a NL West matchup out of those 2 first rounds.
Well, I don't think Philadelphia is stacked up. I think Atlanta's the best team I saw this year by far. I think San Diego, if they don't look at the track record between what they've done against the Dodgers in the past, San Diego could beat LA. You touched on their pitching. LA's pitching right now is kind of in a state of flux. Gonsolin's back. You have your reliables, but this is where Walker Buehler would have been a guy. And May has been, they don't have the vaunted pitching staff that you would think they would need in order to win that many games over the course of the regular season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would tell people beware. San Diego, man, they have a good manager. They get it. It's starting to come together. And this thing can go beyond 5 games.
Yeah. By the Braves, they extended Spencer Strider for a few years. Today, was he a rookie this year? Is he? Okay. So you mentioned earlier Michael Harris winning Rookie of the Year. I don't see how Strider's been there the entire season.
True. It's between those 2.
Yeah.
And your point's a good one. I mean, he's been there all year, but
200 strikeouts, less than 100 hits, less than 50 walks on the year.
It's funny, man, when you see teams go all in on guys that young. I remember, I guess when Albert broke in, the Cardinals kind of poo-pooed the stats and said
7 years, $100 million.
Exactly. And especially if he's a guy in your organization that you homegrown, you have a little bit more of a loyalty or an affinity toward that player because you've known him from the day he walked into your facility.
Yeah, they the Braves have done a really good. I mean, they did it with Acuna, they did it with Albies, they did it with Riley. They have gone out there and they have made sure all of that homegrown talent has stayed right there, homegrown.
I think they've been the one organization that really kind of started that. You know, you go back to the days when Andrew Jones, they paid him a lot of money early in his career. You know, they haven't missed very often.
Right.
They haven't missed very often. But I think it really has a lot more to do with if you grew up in their organization, they're going to take a closer look to you compared to saying, well, we got this guy from Detroit and he's turned out to be a good player. Well, no, he's not one of us, is how you would look at it.
Yeah. On the AL side, the Mariners kind of shocked the Blue Jays. I still think the Cardinals meltdown in the 9th was worse than what the Blue Jays gave up in Game 2 of that series.
That's a good one. I guess in both situations, the hits kept coming along with a few walks. But it's I don't know. It's going to be a challenge in some regard.
Yeah, so they get Houston, who is they quietly put together a really good season. I mean, the Dodgers just ran away with it. The Mets and Edwin Diaz and their payroll, everybody knew what was going on there. The Braves coming from behind, winning all the games they did. You had the Yankees off the great first half they had and everything surrounding Aaron Judge all year. And then in the end, it's Houston that has the 1 seed in the American League that nobody really seems to be. I mean, they just quietly went about their business, won a whole lot of baseball games, and got the 1 seed.
I think they're the story of the year, to be honest with you, as far as teams are concerned, because as you touched on, nobody really talked about
No.
it. And I remember watching them in spring training, and I'm like, oh boy, this could be it, because they had a lot of question marks. I mean, you had Altuve, you had Verlander, you had a couple other guys who were part of the championship team. But Dusty has kind of revamped that thing. So I think it's between he and Scott Service as far as manager of the year in the American League. I think Ollie's got locked up in the National League.
Really?
Who would you like?
We've had this debate before that I think it's going to be Rob Thompson for coming in middle of the year and taking that team to the playoffs. That's who my pick would be, but I also think Buck Showalter wins it because he's in New York.
And he has $282 million.
Right.
I'm going to stay with Ollie. First-year manager, won the division. I think, and you mentioned Buck didn't win. And who's the other guy?
Rob Thompson.
Yeah, he didn't win the division. And some would say, well, it was a weak division. Yeah, it was, but you know what? He won it, and you didn't. You couldn't hold on yourself in your own division. So whoever wins, it'll be good.
And how much did the voters put behind everything else that Ollie had to balance this year with the last year of Albert, the last year of Yachty, and having that too? Yeah.
Throw in the fact that your number one pitcher didn't really pitch until September.
Yeah.
The other two guys you envision being part of this, and Aaron Brooks and Verhagen, gave you nothing.
Nope.
You won with 13 players making their major league debut on one roster. So how he was able to keep all that together it's a monumental task, and I think he's worthy of being the manager of the year.
The other ALDS is a series. I mean, it seems like every few years we get this exact same series, Cleveland and New York. It seems like this one just always pops up, and every time both of them are in the postseason, it seems like they always end up playing each other.
Cleveland can pitch, man. They got some guys over there, man. They swing the bat okay, but they can pitch. In Cincinnati, I mean, the Yankees have just been average since the All-Star break. So that layoff, we don't know how the workouts were going to take place or what they did during the layoff. Can't ask Aroldis Chapman because he wasn't there.
No, he took an even more extended layoff, and
But I think when you look at the big picture, it's going to be fun to watch because and we say this, well, on paper the Yankees are, the Yankees are on paper. It's not because they scare you that much. So I like the matchup, and I like what Terry Francona does as a manager.
Matt Carpenter is going to be on the ALDS roster,
Good.
so he's come back from that broken foot that he suffered right after the St. Louis series. If you missed the story on Aroldis Chapman, he missed a team workout yesterday, and his excuse was not good enough for Aaron Boone. We don't know what the excuse was. We haven't heard what that excuse was. Yeah, it was not good enough for Aaron Boone. So yeah, he will be left off the playoff roster for the team. No, and that's what we were talking about with Rammer and I talked about it yesterday, that he's got an ERA around 5 this year. If his ERA was 0.5, how far down the list of excuses are to get more acceptable for Aaron Boone if he's got an ERA under 1 rather than over 5?
His run was over anyway. They weren't going to bring him back, so we'll see. But that's going to be a good series.
Both. So now you do get, though, so the NLCS, as you look at it, it's going to be West Coast versus East Coast. And this is what we talked about with the scheduling of it. After there will be no days off after game 2.
And, I think most players would like it that way.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge is you probably like it that way in August, maybe July. Now we're in October. And you can just look at some of these guys just worn down.
Yeah. So we will that starts tomorrow, and we'll talk about that. I know Rammer and I are going to go down to about once a week now for the baseball show, Daily Cards. So we will be we'll be doing that now about once a week, and all the other shows that we have here on Claibs Online. We will take another break. When we come back, we got football news to talk about, and a little bit of hoops too. Before we wrap things up, we are live at Mungenast Alton Toyota out here in Alton, Illinois. And back right after this.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.
Back here at Mungenast Alton Toyota here on ClaibsOnline.com. It's lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Alton Toyota. Visit both of them online, stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. That's go there, see what they have there in stock before heading out to the parking lots and seeing what they have out here. Know what you're looking for, make that whole process a lot easier at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. College football Saturday. I know you and I were down at the ballpark pretty much all day. Didn't watch a whole lot of college football on Saturday, but Mizzou was off this weekend, so. I know, locally that kind of probably gave some other people a Saturday off. Who they play this weekend?
They lost to Florida.
They did play in Florida. You're right. They're off this week. That's right. See, we were both down there. I know that was Darren Ravel got it wrong too. I saw he tweeted out that Florida lost. So
really,
yeah.
Okay.
So, but Mizzou goes back and forth now as they have a bad loss to Auburn. They play a really close game against Georgia, losing late in that one, and then now you go to Florida and you lose that game. As it's you're not sure. It's a lot of Jekyll and Hyde now with playing to their opponent.
Well, you're getting into the meat of the schedule, and they're going to be sometimes some of the smart coaches will schedule a blood donor right at the end of the month, maybe early November, just to kind of retool the team as they get set for bowl action. But, there's still some good games on the schedule every week. And I go back to my point about rankings and how inaccurate, and I don't know how they come up with it, but whatever they're doing doesn't prove to be as accurate as you think, because some of the ranked schools get knocked off on a regular basis. So if they were ranking, you thought they were that good, then why are they getting beat every week by inferior teams?
Yeah, they. I did see you mentioned rankings. Illinois is now ranked in the top 25.
They've been fun to watch. I didn't know how good they were going to be, and they still have a lot of football to be played. But man, 5-1 sure sounds better than 2-3.
Right. and they're they're first place in the and they're half of the Big Ten. So a couple more wins secures them that championship game and a really nice bowl for them too.
Mm-hmm. The whole bowl concept is maybe it's a little antiquated as far as recruiting teams to come play in your game. But it's something that it's more of a tradition. But when you look at teams and their schedule, and I really feel like even though they've expanded the schedule, just because you beat up on some teams doesn't mean you're going to be in a legitimate bowl.
Yeah. The as you look, you mentioned the rankings. You take a look at what the top 25 looks like. Who's left to be as the undefeated? Still a lot of undefeated teams throughout the.
They schedule well.
Yeah, I mean, you look here. You still have I think 12 teams, 13 teams still undefeated. I mean, James Madison there at the very bottom. I don't know how much you want to count them as being an undefeated. I mean, they're undefeated, but they're not a threat for that for that top four. But I mean, you see Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Tennessee, USC, Oklahoma State, Mississippi, Penn State, UCLA. I'll stop there as the list of because TCU is still down there too, but that's a lot of teams still left that are undefeated. That at some point things have to start playing themselves out, and if one of those teams, if an Alabama or Clemson loses, you wonder how far down they fall, and do they drop below? And that's where you kind of look at and you figure out what the voters, what the people are going to think of these teams when one of those top four teams, if they eventually lose a game. And where do they fall as far as all the other ones? Yeah.
It's one of the challenges that we have with this whole football playoff system. I know they want to expand it. You're still going to have the same argument. Somebody on the outside is feeling like, well, we did this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't do it on the right days. So it's trying to appease as many with less.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes.
So right now, none of those, there are no one-loss teams out there right now that you would think have a shot at the top four.
No.
So that I think we can look at, and you can knock all those teams off the list, and you can kind of start looking at who actually does have a real possibility there. In the NFL, though, only one undefeated team left. The Eagles still undefeated, 5-0 now, as they win in Arizona this weekend. But still, I think when you look at overall, I don't think much of a Super Bowl contender.
Why not?
I don't. Do you trust Jalen Hurts
I do.
You do?
I do. That's the reason why this team is good. I mean, their offensive line is continuing to grow. They got a guy who can cover for them as far as his running skill. Throws a big ball, and maybe one of the top leaders in the game. You look at everywhere he's been. Well respected, well thought of, tough guy, physically as strong as anybody. Still working on his passing, but his passing is better because he got better receivers to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
This NFC, Dallas is playing well. They got their defense pretty
They
good.
are. Enough? Are they playing well enough right now for there to be a quarterback controversy when Dak Prescott comes back between him and Cooper
I
Rush?
gave several million reasons on why Dak Prescott.
I'm talking about play on the
here's
field.
The thing. The guy who's doing it now, he isn't winning games for them. He's just making sure he doesn't lose.
Yeah.
So I can always find a game manager. I need a guy who makes plays.
And when Dax comes back, he's throwing for 400 yards a game. Like he's capable of going out there and having those huge games.
But now the running game is starting to come around between Pollard and Elliott, which is what I thought they were lacking in the first place. So yeah, Dallas is there, but I mean, you look at the NFC, Rams aren't any good.
No.
Tampa Bay, competitive for sure.
They got lucky yesterday.
Very lucky. So I don't know what other teams stand out. I mean, it's like you look at the AFC. You got Kansas City, you got Buffalo, you got Baltimore. San Diego's a good team. They may have 5, perhaps 6 legitimate teams over there. And if you get the right draw, who knows where you can go.
Have you heard any officials or anybody that's tried to defend the roughing the passer call?
Jerome Booger did today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any good officials that have tried to defend?
Well, he's a good one. I haven't heard any. I haven't talked to any, but I think it's a product. I think it's more being shell shocked by what's happened the last couple of weeks with quarterbacks going down and hitting their head on the carpet. He did it more out of safety than following the letter of the law or the rule, because that's not a roughing the pass.
No.
You know, if anybody was guilty of something, it might have been Brady trying to kick the guy.
Yeah.
So I get it. You want to protect these guys as much as you can, but there comes a point where you're getting in the way as far as how this works. So what they do next, I don't know. But, you know, Tampa's a team, you know, their running games. Fournette played really well yesterday. They've got some receivers. You know, granted, they've been there. That also helps. Philadelphia doesn't have that yet. So, but right now, and somebody will beat them. I don't think so. Maybe they get beat 3 times. But when it's all said and done, they made some significant improvements on and off the field, and you can see how it's bearing fruit.
The Chiefs play tonight, Monday Night Football against the Raiders. That game is in Kansas City. 4 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes tonight. Passes Troy Aikman on the all-time list for touchdown tosses.
Who's in front of Aikman?
I don't know who is. I just saw that
he might be in jeopardy too.
I was going to say, all I saw was that he needs 4 to pass Aikman, and with Aikman being on the call of the game tonight. So
I like Troy's got a lot of records, so good for him.
But yeah, you look at they can move to 4-1 tonight. Bills 4-1. Josh Allen with a huge game yesterday. He had what 350? Was it? Yeah.
The problem there is, you know, because Pittsburgh doesn't have an offense.
Right.
You know, the offensive line can't block. They threw out Kenny Pickett yesterday, and he was all right. But once they started blitzing, and there was one guy they left unprotected, you know, he's running for his life. That's a team that's got to really figure some things out for its future. Yeah. Especially in the offensive line.
We did see our first NFL coach fired today, Matt Rule of the Carolina Panthers. He was the hot guy to come out of college. They teams were fighting over him, and he went and joined
him $40 million more.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to work for the next 4 years.
Or he can go back to college and double dip.
I'm sure he'll go back to college.
Right. Yeah. So not only that, he'll have another huge contract. Some college is going to pay him a lot of money.
There's some schools out there that have the money. You look in Nebraska.
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin. Nobody wants to go coach in Colorado. Auburn's going to become available. There'll be Arizona State.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have 4 to 6 legitimate programs that'll be looking for a guy like that. So I think the question is for him, how long do I want to stay at home?
Yeah. Speaking of college, I don't know if you saw Jeff Goodman had tweeted out the other day, had a report that I guess Illinois basketball and Kansas basketball, they're going to play a secret scrimmage game here in St. Louis.
I wonder where they play it.
No fans though. They're not selling tickets to it.
I know, but
anything?
Where would they play it?
What are the options?
Play at Chaffetz. Play at their practice facility. Remember, there's no fans.
Right.
You just need a floor to practice. This is a neutral ground for both of them.
Right.
You know, play in somebody's gym.
Right.
Yeah, you go down to St. Louis, you can play it down there.
Do get in your Rolodex there, get in your contacts, and
listen. After what happened out in Golden State with guys with a camera,
what do you think? I mean, I didn't even put that on the list for today.
That person should have been fired, and I think they know who did it.
Yeah,
it was a staffer who sold it for $10,000, which most people think it would have gone for $50,000. Can't happen. And I was talking to Katie Wu about this the other day. It's things like that will limit media access, even though this wasn't media. But I think what you're going to see is when you come to our practice, you just put your phone over here.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
You know, because these teams are so concerned about their image and the things. And again, what happened has happened before in practices, maybe not as severe, but, you know, guys fight in practice all the time for one reason or another.
What do you think of Draymond punching Jordan Poole?
Well, it was a bad move. I don't think you can defend it. I don't care what Jordan Poole said. You're the veteran.
Rumors already called him a triple single player.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time he's been called that. So, I mean, I don't know if he's got time to punch everybody like that. But, the bottom line is you can't do it, especially if you're
No.
one of the core 3 guys on that team. Where they take it from here, who knows? I know he's going to step away from the team, but he made a very interesting point with regard to his apology that he needed to make sure his family, his parents were good with it as well, apologizing because they carry this also. How sincere Draymond, who knows? You know, there's kind of a quiet rumor that the Lakers, he was trying to get himself traded to the Lakers. And he could fit well there. But bottom line is, do you want all the other things that come with it? Because Draymond always finds himself in the middle of something.
He does.
But I will tell you this, and I said it to you last year when I watched them in Indianapolis. I told you that he's the most valuable player. Then he got hurt. I don't think he'll ever win it because he doesn't have enough media people who respect him. But Draymond Green is the straw that stirs the drink on that team.
Yeah. We wrap up here. Blues preseason is over. They have their roster set for right now. There's probably going to be some more changes made to that, but they trade Klim Kostin to Edmonton. So former first round pick goes away as just was a guy that never I guess found his true potential.
Tools no toolbox that was consistent. It's basically how it went down. And we're getting the same guy back. He only plays defense.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate because you look at him, he could skate. He was a big guy. He had no problem playing the body. I was just telling Jamie, you give him a 45-second shift and he'll be good for 40 of them. In the last 5 seconds, he'll do something that will remind everybody you can't go back out there. And I just think they got tired. They just didn't see the growth, and they had other guys who were starting to ascend within the organization.
Yeah. You gonna be talking with Kevin Weeks before the start of the season at all?
We have been exchanging phone calls the last couple of days, missing each other. He's going to have his hands full because the NHL season starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we're looking to have him involved, Alex Ferrario involved from a local standpoint, and we may have another surprise. We're just trying to go back and forth on whether this makes sense for us.
Sounds good. So much stuff here on Claibs Online each and every week. You got Huddle Up with Howard. You have the Dr. Rick podcast. 2-man game starting up again with Rammer and Rock talking basketball. There are just so much for every sport, for every for whatever you're looking for. We have it here on Claibs Online.
And we have one more installment of the Joe West.
Two more. Two more episodes for this season of the Joe West podcast, as we will be wrapping that up. New episode up today, 5460, the Joe West podcast, where he's talking about some of his postseason memories. So check that out. That's separate from Claibs Online. You got to go find that 5460, the Joe West podcast. That's going to do it for us here at Mungenast Alton Toyota out in Alton, Illinois. We will talk to you next week. But for now, for Mike Claiborne, I'm Joe Roderick. We have been powered by Ameren, Illinois, and driven by Mungenast Alton Toyota and Mungenast St. Louis Acura right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Pulpit K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Pulpit K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Pulpit K9, we focus on the owners, educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here, but also we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, we one phone call away, we'll make a trip. We got the Pulpit Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.